Evening and welcome to another edition of the Buddy Martin Show. It's midweek, my last night probably. Cal have been here and back and forth for about the last 3 weeks. Headed back to Panama City, and tonight got our guys on. We're going to kind of update you about what's going on in Gainesville. Standing by in the green room, red, orange, and blue room, David Whitley and Rob Browne and Brenden Martin and Loren Meadows will kind of give you the temperature gauges about which way is the wind blowing for Billy Napier. Well, what do you think? Come join us and tell us your thoughts. Meanwhile, I'll tell you about ours because the Buddy Martin Show is on the air. Tell your friends and neighbors to come join us right now.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the program. I'm Buddy Martin. The program is called The Buddy Martin Show. It's the Tuesday night edition. I'm a little mixed up because I've done 5 shows now in about 2 days. So my brain's a little scrambled, but this is Tuesday. I am Buddy Martin, and this is The Buddy Martin Show. Was pleased to be on with Brady, and she was Brady. I always remember Brady when I think about the QB. He wasn't even a QB. Shane Matthews did the show this morning. Always good to do the show with Shane. Really honored to be on Allie Peak Wilbur's program, her podcast. We taped it yesterday, and it ran today. She did a very good job of interviewing me. I'll ask you some questions that she asked me. And then later on, we'll have Brenden Martin will show up on our show for a change. By the way, I was on with Rob Browne this morning, too, so that is my fifth show. Always glad to be on with our friends, and everybody always loses the link. They always seem to lose the link. I sent it out in the morning. I sent it to them. Well, I got to go give it to them again. That's all right. I understand. David Whitley now is looking for it. And I'll tell you about what's going on. The CBS has their practice season reviews on now, and they've kind of revised somewhat. They've revised their look at Florida, and I'll tell you about that. Not a big thing, but and I'll pose this question for you that I posed earlier, and I don't want to sound like I'm just some sunshine pumper out here, but I've chosen to be more positive because let's be honest, you can choose how you want to be that day and your attitude, right? So why not? If you have a choice, I don't have any reason to be really negative other than the fact that Florida's schedule is brutal. It happens. I mean, it's the way it's going to be. So, yeah, I'm going to take a little different look because things happen, and there've been an awful lot of good things that have happened for the Gators in recent weeks. The biggest one was getting the USC offensive lineman, which changes a lot of things. And that was one. But there are other little things too that I think matter, and just the things I'm hearing from the players, what they say off the field when they have conversational things is pretty impressive to me. And so that's what I'm looking. I'm looking for the little nuances. We're not going to have any staggering news out of the camp unless someone gets thrown out of school or some scandal happens. By the way, just be grateful, Gator fans. That's not happening under Billy Napier's watch right now. So that's something that has happened in the past. So from that standpoint, another positive. And I was asked this question this morning actually yesterday, by Allie Peake Wilbur about Napier. And she said, "Do you like Billy Napier?" What would you say if someone said, "Do you like Billy Napier?" and then said, "If so, what do you like about him?" And I had to kind of dig deep on that one, and I did. Thought about it. I answered. I'll let you watch her podcast to find out. So I'll ask you that question: Do you like Billy Napier? Not just as a person, but do you like him as a coach too? So ponder that one for a minute. While I make sure David Whitley's got the right okay, link. See what you have to do when you do a podcast by yourself. Um, the little dirty things that no one understands what you have to do. It's just the way it is. It's like when you own a business and clean the toilets out. I remember having to do that when I owned a radio station. I said, "Oh wow, okay, someone's got to do it, so why not me?" And it's okay. It's okay. It's my honor and my privilege to be able to be on this show and do these things and have you as the audience, which is the best part, is having you as the audience. So we're going to do this right now. We're going to send this again to David Whitley, so you'll be secure, and we will do this. Now he'll have it. All right, there you go. So that's that part. All right, so I'm going to get Rob on here in just a moment. Meanwhile, you pop on with your questions and your comments. Do you like Billy Napier? And so why is the question? And that was the question asked me, and I'm asking you. So let's see what you got to say. We'll go into our comments and reactions here and see. Good evening, first of all, to Tommy Seal. Tommy, good. Let's look who's here. Alex Perez. My goodness, haven't seen Alex you in a long time, man. Good to see you. And also Marcus Martin. All right, we're going to join here now, David Whitley. Let's go get David. Rob is standing by. Let's see if we can get Mr. Whitley up in the out of the orange and blue room into the actual. There he is, right there. David, how you doing?
Just fine, buddy. How you doing?
Oh, I guess okay. I've got you up here, good to go. And let's see if I can add you to the right side, so the left. I'll add me to the left, right side. David, what's going on, brother?
We've sort of hit the lull in the
It's all right.
hitting that slow time of year.
Yeah. Hey, it's 80. It's almost 90 degrees. It's time for a lull. Man, it's so hot the last couple of days. It decided to go right to summer. No spring this year.
I felt that today. I went outside and says, "Man, it feels like it went from March to July."
Mm-hmm.
But
it did.
Nobody should be shocked. I don't.
Yeah, we've done this a few times in Florida. It's a heat thing. You know what it's like. We've had it before. We know what it's like.
Yes. I say, you're surprised it's hot in Florida, huh? Well, that's the way it goes.
Yeah. So I had a couple of stories that I saw this week that made me think of you. You, the guy who likes whimsical stories and what have you. But let me ask you what you've been writing about this week. Talk about what's been on your mind, and we'll talk about Ric Flair. I know you saw that story. That's David Whitley, if I've ever seen
it. Yeah, I was tempted to go up to Paisanos and have a meal.
Yeah.
No, that's
go to the bathroom or go to the bathroom.
Anything with Ric Flair gets people's antenna up. You know, that gets them going.
Yeah. Which brings up an interesting point. How do you get your stories? Tell people, how did they come to you? I get questions, why do you write a column? You're writing 4 or 5 a week. What do you do? I don't do that anymore. And I said, well, you do. That's what you do. You on the alert. Your brain is trained to look for things. How do you do it?
Yeah. The internet has made it so much more easy to just scan. I remember in the old days, I'd go down to Barnes and Nobles and just hope to pick up papers from around the state or something. And it was all 3 or 4 days old, at least by then. Or just, back in the old days here as a student that had that line of newspaper racks.
At the Hub, baby. That was the greatest. Yeah. That was the greatest. That's one thing about it. You knew you were in a newspaper town because there's like 15 to 18 racks of papers from Palm Beach and Cocoa and you name it. They had it right there every day on there.
it was good just because you just want to see what else is going on, and because you know how it is, you're always paranoid you're missing something, and so that was good. But I mean, gosh, now it's so much easier, and yeah, I mean, of course, that's a good place, but also just hanging out, talking, being around the teams and stuff, stuff's pot and just talking to people. Just insane.
David, you're too young to remember exchange newspapers, I know.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, back in the day, the publisher was too cheap to subscribe to out-of-town papers.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't have any way to know what they were saying in Nashville or Birmingham or whatever.
Yeah.
And you had to convince your publisher to write them for an exchange paper, and you send them a subscription to the Ocala Star Banner, who would want that, for the one in the Birmingham News. And they would send you papers, and you get them all rolled up, and you send them to you 4 and 5 at a time, always a week late. And you scanned over them looking for little nuggets, little pearls, and what have you. And it was good because how else would we have read Betty Marshall? How would we have met, although we read those guys, So, yeah, it's just, now we can't even get a paper.
No. But, I mean, there's so much. I mean, there's too much now online and stuff. Although, there's certainly a lot more quantity. I wouldn't say there's a lot more quality online. But, yeah, because it's so much of it is repetitious stuff, but you never know what remember the old Colin? He's a news Sidney Harris, I think his name. He was
I remember Sidney Harris. Yeah.
I loved his column that he would do on things I learned by looking up other things, and it was just chock full, and that's sort of how you just stumble into things. A lot of times. You never know.
Well, there was the famous things I learned by opening my mail. Hal Boyle, the AP, for many years wrote that in a local paper. I never met him, never saw him, but he would just open up his mail and say, give you some factoid out of some remote press release that you wouldn't know or hear about otherwise. It's well, let's go get our friend Rob.
All right.
He's hanging out there. He's waiting to jump in here, and Rob will always come up with something, right? Rob will always contribute something. Let's see if he's here. First of all, before I start bragging on him, where are you, Rob? Rob, are you there? There he is. There's Rob right there. Say hello, Rob.
Yep. Hey, how are y'all? Just bring me on in there, and I'll be ready to go. I guess
you're in, buddy.
Okay. I'm just seeing the big screen, and then I'm down here. But no, I've been listening to you. It is a privilege to get on here every night and do this. This stuff's a lot of fun. It's never worked, buddy.
Yeah. You've been doing a lot of it lately, hanging out with Paul Feinbaum every night, and whatever, and doing those shows in the daytime, and you get the cast of characters includes Franz Beard and Ben Troop and Brenden and Martin. It looks a little like another show I know. But it's very, and I was occasionally let me on it when you got nobody else to get on. And
no, you were on this morning. That I love it when you interact with like Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider. Rodney's really good, and he's always got a lot of content. But you're great with your questions. Great interviews. I mean, that was, and then I got to visit with Houston Nutt last night. So yeah, there's no slowdown really at all.
Now you get David Whitley. He's only be with you for a couple of minutes. He's going to go in there retired, eat cookies and milk, and go to bed. So,
Rob, how you doing?
Good. I can't see you.
I can't see you either. But
no. Yeah.
I don't understand. I'm looking at both of you on the screen right now.
Yeah. I guess we just need to be up on the. There we go. Well, I see me flip down like that, trying to share the screen, but
you're on the air. I don't know. Brenden will be on here in a moment, and we'll get him to figure out what's going on and why you can't see us. I don't know, but go ahead and talk. We can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I can see you, but I can't see David. But,
all right,
buddy,
it's too bad. I'm looking really good tonight, Rob. I got to tell you.
There you go.
That's debatable.
Yeah. He's been out there working the beat, man. Working around with a sterno notepad in the back pocket.
That's right.
Got to go spend a couple hours with the head coach one-on-one, That's how it is, isn't it?
That'd be a couple more than I spent the last 2 years one-on-one, but that's all right.
Yeah.
Got to start somewhere.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. David, we had this morning actually. Jacques Doucet was on from WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge, covers LSU for us, and he said today around 1, he was getting a one-on-one with LSU head coach Brian Kelly. He gets one of those a year. Remember the good days when you could just say, "Hey, coach, can I come by?" And just
knock on your door. Come on in. I got nothing. You know.
Yeah, I think those days will come back because in Simpletown, Buddy and I have come up with this place called Simpletown. We're going to bring those days back. I think the fans. How long have you been writing, David? I mean, I would love to see a compilation of everything you've written. I think it'd be a great book.
40 years.
Gutenberg. Sorry, that was Gutenberg. Gutenberg Press.
Yeah. Too long. But yes, it has definitely changed from as far as getting into chit chat with the old coach along the way. Of course, I remember when I was coming up, the quote old guys, which I am. I guess we all know. They were complaining about the lack of access then, that they could no longer like just wander into practice and like walk up the stairs to Bear Bryant's platform. You know, his bird nest up there. You know, the old guys could do that, and like I guess it was getting. There were too many people wanting to get up there, so they stopped letting them do that. But you could still just hang out at practice all you wanted, and it's not, man. Now it's
it's funny.
Everything's the Kremlin.
It is.
I remember this. You were saying that. I used to come down from Denver and I'd drop in, go to South Carolina and drop in and see Spurrier every now and then. I've done it a while. And, it would be a Thursday or a Friday before a game or whatever. And I'd go by his office and knock at the door and he'd be in there and I'd walk in. And he'd chat with me. But I heard him tell Norm Carlson one day, "Yeah, Buddy Martin, he just comes by here and comes inside my office. He didn't call anybody, he just walks in my office." Like this is a thing you can't do anymore. But I understand. It became a thing where you had to have appointments instead of calling a coach. The coach said, "Come by, sure, come on by." Or walk up to after practice. Look, I hate to sound like the get off my lawn guy, which I am, but I can remember when, as a young puppy, and I was writing for the Star Banner in Ocala, I would get a little time on Thursdays for a couple of hours, and I'd get in my car and run to Gainesville and go to Florida Field, and I'd sit in the stands, way up on the stands on the swamp, and watch practice by myself. Nobody else was there. And it got to where Ray Graves would come by there and sit down for 15 minutes with me, which was unheard of. Of course, she's that kid today. And he would sometimes tape stuff with me, I'm thinking, well, you could never do that again. And look, I know it's all changed. I get it. My poor friend Carswell just found out he can't go to AAA and get a trip ticket anymore. It's future shock for him. He tried to go get a trip ticket. So, maybe in 3.5 weeks and for $15. He couldn't get over the fact. How do people travel without a trip ticket? I said, Carswell, it's this thing right here.
Yeah.
This is what they use. So future shock is upon us. I don't know, David, what was the first thing that hit you with future shock in the business? What was the first thing you did? You said, wow, this is different.
Well, I was there right at the transition from the really huge typewriter porta-bubble things that guys would drag, and they weighed about 100 pounds. And you could type in about 3 sentences, then have to kill it because that's all the memory it had. And within like 2 years, everybody had those fancy Radio Shack TRS-80s, which they were indestructible. And at the time they were just cutting in. Of course, now it's laughable. It's like they're like stone tablets. But that was cool, just being able to send and not having to dictate and stuff. Because when I was in high school and even in college here, it was still a lot of typewriter stuff, which was bad. In fact, it's bad because I didn't know how to type. In fact, they kicked me out of the first reporting class at Florida I was in because I failed the typing test.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, you're right. it has changed a good bit since that time. I wrote a piece this week about my new computer, which I
Yeah.
seem to be having a little problem with right now. My new Mac laptop, and I counted it was my fourth Mac laptop, and I just put to rest that laptop I got in right before Mullen came along at the end of McElwain, and I
Mhm.
remembered that as having written 2 books on it, and other things, and wore it out for the most part. Prior to that, I had my Mac laptop where I was able to write about Billy Donovan's 2 national championships, Urban Meyer's championships, 4 books, and so on. So, and then I started thinking back before when I started writing with computers. Remember the Texas Instruments, big
Yeah.
old monkey machines, those, and you actually had paper with them. And then Woody Page and I went to the U.S. Open in 1980, I believe. We were the first ones to have the Radio Shacks.
Yeah.
Nobody thought, wow, and I thought it was so cool. We went and got them, and they were so cool because you could move things faster. So it's gone a long way from the typewriter for sure.
Yeah.
I think there's something very sweet about the music of the clacking of the keys, David, in the press box.
Oh yeah. Well, that you hear the the typing. When it hit me how much things had changed fast was all the President's Men, the newsroom of the Washington Post, where no computer. This is what 72, just the typewriters. Ta, 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 ta.
Yeah.
And now man, I couldn't imagine sitting there and having to write with on a typewriter where you don't have the delete button. You can't go back and go. It's got to be clean. It's got to be neat. You're editing the old fashioned way, and plus you get your copy and you hand it to an editor. And if I was an editor, nothing would be more satisfying than if you didn't like just instead of just saying sending it back like we do now, just taking wadding it into a paper ball and just throwing it in the trash.
Yeah.
And it must have been very satisfying for old time
Yeah.
editors.
I have 2 stories about that. One is talking about the clacking of the typewriters. Who was the famous golf writer of the Journal-Constitution who started way a long time ago, covering Bobby Jones?
Bucky Sherrod?
No, Blackie was in Dallas. This
Jesse Outler?
No, this is way before Jesse. I'll have to get his name. He wrote a lot of golf stuff, and he liked to have a little a drink. And the late Evan Pope told me this story. David, I don't know if you ever went to the Quonset Hut, the Masters, or not. Probably too young for that.
It was gone by the time I got there.
Well, we used to go there, and there always had these magnolia bushes around it. Evan Pope said he called this guy a writer after the Sunday deadline, sitting back in the magnolia bushes with this bottle, and as guys were typing and the typewriter was going, this guy said, listen to that, tap, tap, tap. All you're going to read is crap, crap, crap. And I'll never forget that story. Amazing. That's some of the things that you hear. Just the stories are, and Rob has been around enough press boxes to know how rare some of that stuff is. The dialogue that goes on there and the weird things, the pranks people play on each other. So, all right, we digress. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go get this. Let's see. I'm not going to go get this. I'm going to tell you about my friends at Meldon Law. I'm due to cut a new spot with him. I got a chance to see Jeffrey last week. And we were at dinner up in Gainesville, and to a nice evening there, which we enjoyed with our friends. And he's got some plans coming up here soon. I think maybe next week, and I hope to be there for his Scholar Athlete Awards. He gets a really good award for them. He's had some great ones over the years. And so Jeffrey is into everything. At Meldon Law, they don't back down from their responsibility as sponsors or to your lawsuits. If you have a lawsuit that you're not happy with somebody else that's not progressing as they do in medicine, you can go to Meldon Law and ask them to take a look at it, get a second opinion if you don't like it. So you can check them out. They're located all over the place now. The new office I heard in Williston opening up soon, Lake City, Ocala, Gainesville. So Meldon Law, they won't back down. So check them out. Go to their Facebook page. They give away a lot of things. All right, guys. Let's get to this story on this, David. I can't believe you haven't read this. Maybe you will. on the story of Ric Flair. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Now, first of all, I mean, I've never been a WWE fan. I know Ric Flair is a legend. He's won so-called, I guess you call them championships, like 17, whatever it is. He's well known, whatever. But apparently, you had some trouble in Gainesville. If you guys heard about this, he was there to attend the graduation of his daughter. And he went to this local restaurant, which we later learned was Pisano's, stone-fired pizza, whatever. I've been to the one in Ocala. And he went there, and something transpired where he had to use the restroom facility. And somebody kept occupying it, and he couldn't get in. And it turns out that the guy occupying it was one of the managers. We don't know exactly what took place, but the stories say that that Ric Flair got really disrespected, and he fired off a blast on Twitter that said, "I spent $1,500 at Pisano's stone-fired pizza to be respected more than I've ever been my entire life." Okay, which makes you wonder what he had to do. It's something to do with this. The fact this particular thing was tied up. Pisano's co-owner Jerry Roberts said the evidence is clear, but declined to offer an explanation as to why Flair was asked to leave the restaurant. He then sent a prepared statement, and I won't read it to you, just basically saying he did everything right, their people did nothing wrong, etc. Bizarre, very bizarre story. I can only imagine, David, what he must have done. Now, he's a guy who's been a Bulldog. One of his ex-wives was, I think, a Gator. And then there was I believe he was married to somebody. Anyway, he's been a Georgia fan, an Ohio State fan, a Florida fan. I have no idea what he must have said, but it must have had something to do with the Gators. Because you want to take a shot, David? What do you think he did to offend me?
Yeah, he's had quite a colorful life, no doubt, in and out of the ring. And this is it is evolving in sort of a he said, she said, or he said, he said kind of deal. Because Flair sent this out, and Flair's a good name because it's like putting up a huge flare on social media, because the guy's got like 1.7 million followers on Twitter, and basically trashed Paisanos. And Paisanos, saying, well, we're not going to say what happened, but we back our employees. But then someone posted the video of Flair just ripping.
Oh, really?
Yeah, ripping the manager and being profane. And he let's just say it. I don't know for sure, but let's say if I think he had been given a breathalyzer, he might have melted it.
Oh, okay, all right.
And he did not come off very well. Let's put it that way on the thing. And
a little libation, yeah.
And he told like one of the bartenders, says, "I'll give you $1,000 tip if you tell your manager here to kiss your beep," and stuff like that.
Really?
And basically he just came off as a belligerent drunk. And once this came out, I think yesterday, because the incident happened Saturday, and it started gathering social media team Sunday. Then so this video came out Monday, which made Flair look bad. And then he actually talked to our reporter doing it today and said that well, what set him off was, as you said earlier, he went to the bathroom and he needed to go real bad, and he couldn't get in the stall, and apparently the manager's in there for too long, and he said he was just in there texting or just what. And so, I mean, that's one of the things. Who knows? I don't think the manager would intentionally just go in there and sit forever. I mean, maybe he had too much Chinese the night before, whatever. But Flair apparently got tired of waiting, and they exchanged words, and that's what set him off. Now, if you see the video, you go. I sort of lean on the Paisanos way. I mean, there's no doubt that Flair was he was acting like what he wanted that waiter or that waitress to call the manager. He was acting like the a-hole and the whole thing, and drunk and all that. And and another curious thing, he spent $1,500 there. Man, you got to eat a lot of pizza.
It's a lot of pizza.
And even if it's just drinking, that's a lot of drinking for $1,500.
It is, yeah.
So,
what do you think, Rob? What do you think? How do you think it went down?
I think David's right. I mean, you go in there, and I think he's got a stepson at Auburn too, and I guess we're just waiting for it to happen everywhere he goes. But golly, $1,500. I haven't been to it's called Paisanos.
Yeah, like P-I-E-S-A-N-O-S. Paisanos.
Yeah, that means friend in Italian, like my paisanos. I've got a lot of Italian friends, and so that I'm with David Whitley. But golly, 1.7 million Twitter followers. That restaurant needs to make this thing just go away. I mean, that'd be the best thing to happen for them. But I don't know. It'll put them on the map, for good or bad.
Right. Well, if people see the video, they're gonna. Even if you're a Ric Flair fan, the best defense that you can come up with is, well, he's Ric Flair. You should kiss his butt.
No.
He deserves to go out there and act like like Otis the drunk from Mayberry RFD, except with a.
Otis was nice though. Otis was much nicer.
Right. You're right. You're right. Everybody liked Otis, but because there's the lovable drunks, and then there's the belligerent drunks, and Ric Flair definitely came out in the latter category there.
Yes, he did. I mean, but hey, he's amazing. He's still got a huge following, which is why I wish we still had Monday Night Wrestling. We used to have that at the Mid-South Coliseum, and Jerry the King Lawler, Bill Dundee, Jackie Fargo, Plowboy Frazier, Coco Beware, Handsome Jimmy Valiant. I mean, these guys were, buddy, I think you and David would agree, they were Olympic class athletes, of course, all of them.
For sure. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the argument or the debate you always get them back in the days when people said, "Oh, it's fake. It's not fake." It says, but even now they say, "Well, you got to hand it to him. It's scripted, and he's going to win, but the actual rumbling and tumbling that goes on, that's those are some real.
That's real.
Get,
yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, you have to be a great athlete to be really that kind of wrestler.
You do.
And although I sort of lost it appealed to me because remember the fabulous Moolah, the great female wrestler?
The fabulous Moolah?
Yeah. Now she looked like what you would think a fabulous Moolah would look like. But now everybody up there looks like, a steroided out Barbie,
Yes.
All the women. And, it's all appearance,
It is. Yeah,
but I thought when they basically admitted 30 years ago or 25 that it's fake and that it would kill the sport. But hats off to Vince McMahon for he turned it into the big. I mean, it's sort of like Elvis. It's bigger in death than ever. I mean, fake wrestling or when they said it was real and they had to admit that it was fake because a tax issue, so they wouldn't get taxed. That I thought that's the death of it, but man, it is bigger now than that WrestleMania. It is. It's like getting the Super Bowl in your town.
Yeah, it really is. It is. It's such a massive event. It's not. You're right. I mean, people and people know it's fake, but they don't care. Hey, Kurt Cobain was right. Here we are. Entertain us.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
what it is,
Oh yeah.
All right, we got.
I loved wrestling back in the day when I was 11 years old, and I believed it was real. Hero match. Jack Law, and you mentioned Jerry the King Lawler. I can't. The minute you say him, I think of Andy Kaufman too. And
I'll tell you a true story about that. You know that was that. I know my deer processor. His daughter is married to Jerry Lawler. So I know a lot about the stuff that goes on. And the thing on Letterman was unbelievable. But I think, Jerry Lawler, I've met him a few times. The guy his forearms are as big as my thighs. He never drinks. He does no drugs. He's just naturally a strength freak, is what he is. But you talk about the real deal. Here's a question you might ask people. It says something about us. Who did you stop believing in first? Professional wrestling or Santa Claus?
Wait a minute. Santa Claus?
See, I still believe in Santa Claus.
Yeah, I want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, he comes in the form of a big trade right around Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah. So was the Letterman thing real? I mean, I saw it live, and I was just my jaw dropped. But it was where like he had gotten Andy Kaufman in a wrestling match,
He put him in
and
a pile driver.
and hurt his neck, and so Kaufman is on Letterman in this neck brace, and out comes Law, and they're going to make peace, but then Kaufman starts mouthing off, and Law gets up and just slaps him silly on the set. I was like, oh my God! But then I thought it was real for years. Then I started reading. Well, no, even that was set up, and Andy Kaufman was just the type who would keep going to that same trick over and over. He was subversively brilliant in his comedy.
I'll drop a bombshell on you. I do know this. 2 weeks before Elvis died, August 16th, 1977, he and Jerry Lawler were in negotiations for a wrestling match.
Oh, man.
And just for the record, Elvis Aaron Presley was a black belt in Taekwondo with Kong Ree. That was his instructor, Kong Ree. And I used to buy all my karate stuff over there at the studio on Poplar and Tucker. And Elvis was invited to the White House with Richard Nixon. Well, Elvis, you got the black belt there. Yes, sir. I'm feeling mighty happy up here in the White House. And Elvis was a badass. His childhood dream was to play college football for Ole Miss, but that singing thing got in the way.
Yeah, well, good career choice, as it turned out.
It's a great career choice. But that guy Goldberg, I know a friend of mine was coaching at Notre Dame, went in there to recruit him and looked at his transcript and said, "Good day." Walked back out to his car.
Yeah.
But he signed with Georgia. Remember that.
He was probably the biggest ex-football, because all those guys were ex-football players, it seemed, but till The Rock came along.
Yeah.
And I remember him at Miami. He wasn't much of a college football player, but man, he's become it. No doubt in
Tommy Tuberville used to be on our show every week till he became a deadgum senator. And he was telling us, he said, I went up to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and recruited Dwayne Johnson. He was 6'1 and a half. And the problem was, he said, when we were at Miami, we asked Warren Sapp out of Apopka, Zephyrils, I think is where he's from, if he would move from tight end to defensive tackle. And he said, well, what I got to do? He said, you got to eat. He goes, okay, I'll eat. And he gained about 60 pounds. Had a pretty good career.
Yeah.
Pretty good career.
All right, guys, we're joined by Loren Meadows here. But before we do that, I know I told David I'd get him out of here at a decent hour. I want to get to an issue. It's kind of a serious one, and one I think I'd like to have David's comments on. We all know about Chris Mortensen, the great Mort, who passed away recently, who was kind of invented the position of the information specialist on networks. And today, somebody wrote, I guess it was Peter King, wrote a very nice piece about him. And I knew Mort pretty well. Mort and I came to CBS the same year as basic consultants. He would get information for the Greg Gumbel and Terry Bradshaw and other people on the show, and he was really good at that, getting breaking stories. And I my primary job was content and Bradshaw, and we spent a lot of time talking to each other. And Chris, I'll read you a couple of things that were said about him today. He's from Arkansas, which some people were surprised he's from Arkansas. Quality guy, well thought of by so many people and revered. And he fought the good fight for a number of years with cancer, And so apparently Peter King, who's quite a well-known guy himself, was really touched by it. And they had a going home for him in Arkansas. And he wrote, headed home from the Chris Mortensen Memorial Service in Arkansas, a moving tribute to one of the greats in our business as a pro in person. The event, the family, the support from his friends, inspiring. Words from his son, from the high school coach, more influence from peers, Chris Berman and Adam Schefter and Daniel and Jeremiah left those in the news in the pews in Rogers, Arkansas, in tears. Loving, supportive tears for a life generously lived. we should all hope to live the kind of giving life Chris Mortensen lived. And which was well said. And Chris was understated pretty much. He was very quiet. Worked really hard at his sources. He always resented it when people denied that it was true, because he never went to press anything that he was 100% on. So I just want to say we shouldn't forget these truth warriors, these guys that did this, the quiet man behind the scene, not a big star to the public, but a guy who really made the world go around for those guys. And I remember one incident early on at CBS when Chris and I were kind of young guys jumping in to help out, and the producer called us and said, "We're going to try something out in the studio with a round table. Buddy, you and Chris and somebody else go out there. Let's just try this out, not for the air." And so we got out there, and I knew right off the bat, once Chris got behind the microphone, they weren't going to get him out. And so and the producer kept saying to me, "Buddy, what you have anything to say?" And I thought, this is not my place. This is really Terry Bradshaw's show of where I come from, and so I didn't say much at all. But Chris got in there, and he did a great job. And 2 years later, he left and went to work at the ESPN, and the rest is history. Great information, quality guy, truthful, honest, good guy. And I just want to say a word that the business shouldn't come and go like this with a person like that that we shouldn't remember. So here's to Chris Morton, R.I.P. to him.
Oh, here. Thing I like most about him is, and you said he was understated. In a business where, the person who's the loudest voice tends to get the attention. He was just a guy who got on there and said what he had to say, and he didn't. You could sense he didn't want to be the star. He was there just to pass on information,
Mm-hmm.
and you knew that it was solid. He wasn't just throwing stuff spaghetti against the wall,
Right.
And he's the kind of guy that, if you were one of his sources, you knew you could trust him, and he would, and that came over in the way he presented. And I can't recall anybody ever calling us, "Hey, you got that?" He may have gotten the story wrong, but it wasn't because he screwed. I mean, somebody may have told him something wrong, but you knew that, if he's kind of guy. If it went to press with Chris Mortensen, you knew it was probably true, and you could depend on it being real.
If his name was on it, you can pretty well count it. All right, David, thank you, man. Sorry for keeping you so late, but it's hard to get there with a bunch of good guys not to talk. So thanks for being on the program tonight. And
Elvis, yes, in honor of Elvis, I will leave the building.
All right, man.
Good night, guys.
Bye, guy.
Right.
Bye, David.
And we bring aboard our friend Loren Meadows. Are you in a hole, Loren? You always look like you dropped in a hole somewhere. Don't worry about it. I saw you on the screen. This is all kind of new. We're not things looking different. I'm sorry. The new computer makes it look different, and we have to find our way along with this. But anyway, this is day 2 of the new Mac laptop, and I'm grateful for it, but I'm having a hard time. It's like getting a new Lamborghini and find out there's 4 more gears you didn't know about, So we're trying to keep it rolling down the highway. So good evening to Rob Browne and Loren. Good to talk to you again. And we've been talking about the mood of things in Gainesville and the upward tick of some things. It seems to be something going on there. Now you've been critical of Billy in the past. Seems like he's slow cooking, but I think that the food is starting to smell pretty good right now, and it's just because it's this horrible schedule he's up against that maybe he might not be able to show you what he's got. But I'm feeling better and better. I've publicly claimed to be. I'm not going to be a sunshine pumper. When it stinks, I'm going to say it stinks. But I was on Allie Peak's show yesterday, and she asked me this question, and I asked the listeners, I'll ask you guys, what do you think of Billy Napier? Do you like him? And if so, what do you like about him? So, Loren, you go first, and we'll get Rob's opinion.
Do I like him?
Well, it means you not like him personally. Do you like him as a coach? Like him as a person? What do you like about him? What
I temper. I guess I have to say this. I'm 50-50. And I say that because, Billy Napier he's got a lot of buy-in from a lot of important people. What I mean by that is, the players like him, the people that work with him like him, and those that are far more involved than we are really have nothing but great things to say. And when you talk to people and you look at the way things are going, they seem to have given him that leeway to kind of, like you said, slow cook things. I mean, he's done, for all intents and purposes, done pretty well in building his roster. I think through the transfer portal a little better than he has through recruiting. The talk of Elijah Badger, who is another receiver out of Arizona State. We know how the last receiver that he got out of Arizona State worked out.
Didn't too bad. Didn't too bad. No.
So, I'm 50-50. The everything from everything from the Hefner Center is great. The player experience, the overall commitment to the team as a whole, the support staff, just everything that makes a program look really good on the surface, the recruiting, just all those things. What bothers me is, and I keep saying this, and it's because this is where you make your bones, and Rob would agree, is what you do on Saturdays. And unfortunately, we have a sample size that has been less than appealing. So, that's where that's where the 50-50 comes through. So, I mean, I think that, I think one thing I would encourage people maybe not to do, and maybe I'm being pessimistic, is I always wonder how those that want to stomp their feet and pump their fists when they talk about teams like Ohio State, Michigan, USC, even Oklahoma before they came in the SEC, Texas, that they don't play in the SEC. But then when you get an SEC schedule, now, Billy's got a tough schedule. You don't get to have it both ways. So, when it comes to that, I think it's one of those things where the schedule's the schedule, and, he's got to get out there and win some games. So, like Perry Mason says in the comments, Billy will get it done. A lot of people believe that. And, but like I said, if you look at everything just on paper, things are going extremely well. They're headed in the right direction. But it's going to be that those 12 Saturdays, this coming fall, that's going to be the judge. And, I think trying to hide behind what is maybe the nation's toughest schedule is, that's why you come to Florida. I mean, you've heard Ben say it a million times. It's the best job in the country. You're going to play against the best talent. You're going to play against guys that are going to be millionaires like yourself 2, 3, 4 years down the road. So you don't get to complain about the schedule. When people talk about the schedule, that's the one thing I don't want to, that I kind of just push to the side, because you can't talk about, well, this is the SEC, it just means more, and then worry about your schedule. That's not the way it works. Steve Spurrier played that schedule. Ron Zook played that schedule. Urban Meyer played that schedule. They've all played that schedule. So, that's the way it goes. So,
all right, Rob, have at it.
Look, it's hard to disagree with what Mr. Meadows said. Loren's right. And it's easy here, May 7th, to look at a schedule that starts the end of August. And that's assuming that all these teams that are supposed to be so good are not having any problems of their own on the field, off the field, recruiting, guys leaving, quitting. Typically, when I have seen teams who are staring down the barrel of a loaded shotgun, they respond well. I mean, this is year 3 for Billy Napier. Now, the team photo, it's kind of awkward. You got more support personnel than you have players in Gator uniforms. But it is all about what you do on Saturday. In the bond business, you make a trade at 7:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock, get back on the phone, do it again. Don't run around and go, look at me, look what I did. That's what you're supposed to do. I think Allie Peak Wilbur said on this show a couple of weeks ago, she's pretty damn smart. And so are you, Loren. So are you, Buddy. And David, the people you have on the show are very cerebral. I think you're crazy. You've got all these fans, and I'd love to know what the hell they do in their own lives. You got to pull the plug. No, you don't. Billy Napier won 41 games at University of Louisiana. You are on a gravy train with biscuit wheels as the coach of the University of Florida. You want for nothing. But if you do like what Tennessee and other schools have done, you're going to go wandering in the wilderness for 10, 12, 15 years before you have a double-digit win season. I mean, look, when Charlie Pell took over at Florida, he had the worst season, 0-10-1 in 79. The next year, they were 8-4. At that time, the greatest turnaround in the history of college football. They played Maryland, if I'm not mistaken, in the Tangerine Bowl, they called it back then. Half of the starting 22 players on that Gator football team were high school quarterbacks. Among them, Wayne Peace out of, Winter Haven, Florida? Lakeland, okay. I just think people love to sit on their ass May 7th and say, this coach needs to be fired, that coach needs to be fired. You're out of your mind. Have you ever run a business where you have to hire people? Do you know how long it takes to bring along a salesman? How long it takes to build a military unit? I'm just saying, everybody looks at Florida. Dan Mullen got fired because he left a dumpster fire in Gainesville, Florida. He should be charged with leaving the scene of an accident. So no, I don't think they need to get rid of Billy Napier. And I'm not saying that as a fan of a rival school, saying, keep that guy, he's terrible. Billy Napier's not dumb. He was hired by Dabo. He was hired by Nick Saban. You think those guys hire slugs? You're out of your mind. You don't know football if you think that way. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, all right, so Rob getting pretty passionate. Let me tell you about Titan MRI. And I'm going to show you, we talk about schedules, how hard they are. I'm going to show you the Cupcake City opening 4 games of a team. They ought to be embarrassed to play a schedule like this. And we'll talk
I know where you're going.
Schedule versus what Florida's playing, the most difficult schedule in the history of college football. It can't be good, okay? So let me tell you first about my friends over at Titan MRI. I hate this new iPhone because it clicks off and you have to have a code to put it back on. Central Florida's newest premier independent facility for diagnostic testing, MRIs. If you don't know about it by now, you haven't listened to this show because Titan MRI is known now for its customer service, serving North Central Florida, Gainesville, Ocala, etc. They focus on you, the patient. They want you to have a good experience. They will even custom make your schedule for you. If you can't get your MRI done during the weekday because you work, they'll make an appointment for you at night or the weekends. Who does that? Do that as well. And so also, if you say, well, I don't have insurance, I don't have this, no, you don't take cash or card when you have no insurance, and it's not unreasonable. So if you haven't heard about this place, you should be, because they have modern equipment which they speak to the issues of people getting claustrophobic when they go in. They have an MRI. You guys ever had one? I have. I've been a claustrophobic.
I have.
And they have these new high-strength MRI units that allow more comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic pain. Everything you need to go when you want to get an MRI, Titan MRI. Check them out in Gainesville, TitanMRI.com. All right, here it is. Now, this is the opening schedule for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I'm not making this stuff up, okay? Can you read that? Okay. Loren, this is up in your neck of the woods. Akron, okay. There's a soft one. Western Michigan, they've had a few good teams. Marshall, okay.
Thunder and Herd, baby. Thunder and Herd.
Yeah. And then finally, Michigan State, and then down here. That's their opening schedule. Woody Hayes is turning over in his grave with a schedule like that, although he likes to play some. That is the ultimate Cupcake City right there, guys.
Well, I think that it's like I said, it's one of those things, man. The Buckeyes have, in a lot of years they rarely. I think they jumped on, they played across the Pac-12 a couple times and things like that. But they've always pretty much had those in-state or those MAC kind of cupcakes on the schedule and things like that. But they're not the only ones. I mean, definitely.
Oh, Rob, it sucks. Just say it like it is, okay, Loren? Loren,
Yeah,
you know
with
it's
the,
you
but
know it's
but
so
but but
lousy.
buddy, the thing is okay. I get that, but you know, does you'd have to ask yourself: does iron sharpen iron, or does cupcakes make great dessert?
Well, I'll
And
put it like
what I
this.
mean by that is Ohio State is going to be one of the top football programs in the country. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they are. They're going to be really good next year. They've
Yeah.
improved on defense. Does that give them an advantage by playing those three cupcake games versus, you know, the Gators playing the toughest schedule in the country? I would say I'd rather be battle tested than rested. But
Battle
that's
tested
just my
for what? If you get to coast in and you have 2 games to play, and you're not competitive. I mean, look, they should be penalized. They should be penalized. The committee should penalize them harshly for having a schedule like that, Rob.
Well, look at Ole Miss's schedule in the first 3 or 4 games. Now, granted, they play in the SEC, but the Big Ten, if you think about it, it's been so lopsided. Prior to the last 3 years when Jim Harbaugh, and I hate that he's gone, they had beaten Michigan 15 of the previous 16 games. Mm-hmm. Prior to 3 years ago, Michigan's last Big Ten championship was 2004. It's been Ohio State and then Wisconsin some. I mean, if you think about it, who's got the better program in the Big Ten? Penn State or Wisconsin? I think since Barry Alvarez came in there in the early 90s, honestly, I think it's Wisconsin. But you play a weak schedule, I don't think it helps you. I think you got to train hard to be hard. And it's same thing in basketball. It pays to play some tough games early. Going out and beating up on those rental wins, that's like beating a man in his wheelchair. What does that prove?
We'll find out. I guess down to the committee's choices.
Yeah. Well, buddy, Ryan Day is such a likable guy, isn't he?
I don't know the man actually, but
I mean, but Loren, he whines a lot. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm as a native Ohioan, I got my opinions on Ryan Day, but that's for another show. But
I'm a Woody Hayes disciple.
But what I was going to say is, you talk about the committee, buddy, too. I think the one thing that a lot of people don't lean on the committee enough about is the fact that it's all about picking the best 12 teams, not based on record, not based on, what does for 12 weeks, what do your eyes tell you? So regardless of what schedule you play, who you play, that kind of thing, how did you look beating them? So if Ole Miss, for instance, like Rob said, goes out and beats the brakes off everybody, well, then you look pretty good. So, what does your eye test tell you? Because we could argue that a couple times under Dan Mullen, Florida may have been the second best team in the country that year. They played LSU the toughest the one year, and they played Alabama the toughest the year before, but they didn't make the playoff. So, I think that now at least, you should get a nice group of teams that can compete for a national title, but you got to go with what your eyes tell you, regardless of the schedule.
All right, we're sitting here in May. We're going to be doing this all year. If you had to, I'm going to ask you to do it. How many of the top 12 teams should you pick that are going to make the playoff? Loren, you go. Can you give me a handful of teams you're pretty sure is going to be in the playoff?
That's going to make the 12-team playoff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I can give you, I'm going to say, let's see. I'm going to go with Ohio State in no particular order. Ohio State, Michigan,
Penn State,
USC, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Georgia.
No Ole Miss in there anywhere?
No Ole Miss.
No Penn State in there?
I think Ole Miss loses to Florida.
Did you say Oregon?
I did say Oregon. Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's the handful. I could if I really had to dig a little deeper, I could probably find a couple
I
more.
won't
But
hold you to it. We're not doing this whole 12.
yeah,
Rob, off the top of your
that's
head, give me a handful of teams.
I'll take that. I'll definitely put Ole Miss in there. I'm gonna say for sure. I definitely think Texas. Texas has the best quarterback room in college football. A team that nobody is probably given a chance to. I think Clemson is going to be better. I think Clemson or Florida State, one of those two will make it this year. The ACC, it'll be Clemson. Maybe both of them make it.
Has nobody
I'm not
picked
buying,
Georgia?
I'm not buying Penn State.
Has nobody picked Georgia yet?
no.
Yeah, we got Georgia. Yeah, he said Georgia. Yeah,
Oh,
and Notre Dame is not getting any attention, but
Right.
with Notre Dame's schedule, they're going to have a really good chance. And trust me, push comes to shove, the Irish will be in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say Notre Dame too. I forgot about my boy Marcus. So
All right, guys, good job tonight. Appreciate both of you. Sorry about the technical problems, Loren. Glad you got in. Hello,
Yes, sir.
say hello to Dayglow, Boris, and Rob. Thank you, and we'll talk to you later in the week. All right, buddy.
Thanks for having
Rob
us, man.
Browne. Tell them where you can get your show.
Yeah,
Rob.
we got a show, SEC Sidelines Sports Network and SECU. Brenden Martin's the executive producer. Buddy Martin, your show, all part of this network, Drill Down Local. We'll kick it off tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, with Chris Lee of the Southeastern 14, Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, and Vince Ferrara, the sports animal up in Knoxville. Later in the week, we'll have Coach Houston Nutt on for the roundtable on Friday. It's all about serving and getting out information, and it gets more fun every day. But thanks for having me.
All right, my man. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
Appreciate
See you tomorrow.
it. All right, folks. Thank you for listening and watching tonight. I'll leave you with my thoughts from our friends at Vendstar, who have been supporting this program a long time. We appreciate that. They are people who are here in Ocala who contribute to the community as a patron, but also they're looking out for our health. And they want you to know the importance of clinical trials, how you can help if you want to join and take part as they seek for new solutions for us for treatments. Clinical trials exist to bring new therapies to the public safely and would not exist without the commitment of you. If you decide to participate in one at Renstar, you may receive study-related medications and procedures at no extra charge to you or your insurance, may gain access to a new investigational medication or devices not otherwise available, and receive compensation for time and travel. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. I'm Buddy Martin. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We're back at you again tomorrow night. Same time, same stations. And since we don't have a close tonight, here it is. Good night, folks.